Welcome back, and thank you for tuning in to Midnight Affairs Tales. We appreciate every single one of you. We'd love to know what part of the world you are watching from right now. Let us know in the comments. Now, let's dive into today's story, Chapter 1. Welcome home. The taxi pulled up to a quiet cul-de-sac in suburban North Carolina just after midnight. The air was still, the kind of still that feels unnatural. Kellen May stepped out, his boots hitting the pavement harder than they needed to. He stood there for a second, duffel bag slung over his shoulder, staring at the house he hadn't seen in nearly 14 months. He'd been listed as missing in action for 9 of them. No welcome signs, no balloons, just darkness, and a baby stroller on the porch. His key still worked. The door creaked as he opened it. A new couch sat where his old one used to be. A strange scent hung in the air, vanilla mixed with something synthetic. He froze. A soft coo came from upstairs. A baby. He walked slowly up the staircase. The nursery light was on. The walls were freshly painted with pastel stars. Inside the crib, a baby, about 6 months old, staring up at him with big eyes. Kellen's chest tightened. The baby didn't look like him, not even close. A soft voice behind him, "Kellen?" He turned. Lorna stood in the hallway, wrapped in a robe. Pale. Frozen. Her mouth slightly open. "You're alive." He didn't answer. He just stared at her, at the robe that didn't belong to her, at the second toothbrush in the bathroom behind her. And then from the guest room, a man's voice, groggy, unaware. "Babe? You coming back to bed?" Kellen didn't flinch. He didn't move. He just whispered, "Whose baby is that?" The silence was thick. Lorna's eyes darted between the nursery and the hallway. "Kellen, I didn't know. They told me you were gone." "Did they bury me too?" he said flatly. Downstairs, the man's footsteps thudded lightly on the wood. Kellen stepped away from the crib and stood between Lorna and the stairs. A second later, a man in boxers and a t-shirt appeared. He froze mid-step. "You've got 5 seconds to get out of my house," Kellen said quietly, not breaking eye contact. The man raised his hands, backing toward the door. "Didn't know. I swear. I didn't." The man ran. Door slammed. Kellen turned back to Lorna, who was clutching the wall now, barely breathing. "You're not going to say anything," she said, voice shaking. "I've seen enough," he muttered. He left the room and walked back downstairs. Every corner of the house felt different. The framed photo of their wedding was gone. A frame quote now read, "New beginnings aren't always planned." In the kitchen, he opened the fridge. Half the groceries were things he didn't eat. Almond milk. Turkey bacon. Lorna hated almond milk. He picked up a baby bottle from the counter. Warm. That night, he didn't sleep. He sat on the couch in silence until the sun came up. Lorna never came down. And when the neighbor's daughter, Madison, maybe 10 years old, walked by and saw him through the window, she waved excitedly. "I thought you were dead," she said. "Mommy said Miss Lorna's new husband was moving in." "New husband?" Kellen smiled faintly. "How long has he been around?" he asked. "Oh, since the baby came. He even tucks me in when Mommy's working." The smile vanished. Kellen stood at the door, watching Madison skip off like she hadn't just detonated a truth bomb. A kid wouldn't know to lie like that. He stepped back inside and closed the door with care, like he was sealing something in. Upstairs, he could hear movement. Lorna wasn't coming down. She was hiding because she already knew what he might ask next. And she had no answers that wouldn't make her look worse. He sat on the edge of the couch, quiet, watching the baby monitor glow. That baby who didn't share his blood, whose name he didn't even know. But he would. He pulled out his phone and texted an old friend from the base, Reno, now working in intelligence. "Need a private DNA test. Quiet. Fast. Baby sample. Mine." The reply came quick. "Got you. Don't trust anyone. Drop sample tomorrow. Use gloves." He walked back to the nursery. The baby stared at him again, sucking a pacifier like nothing was wrong. Kellen reached into the crib, gently plucked a hair from the blanket. "Sorry, little guy," he whispered. "Not your fault." He sealed the strand in a plastic wrap, tucked it into his bag. Outside, Lorna's car was gone. She ran. No confrontation. No apology. Just vanished like he had 14 months ago. Kellen stood by the window and watched the street, calm, still. They thought he was dead. They replaced him. Lied for months. Laughed in rooms where his photos still hung. Took his identity. His benefits. Maybe even his name. But he wasn't dead. And now, he was done being silent. The next morning, Kellen moved like a ghost through what used to be his home. He checked the drawers in the master bedroom. Half the clothes weren't his. Cologne he never wore sat on the dresser, expensive, loud. There were unfamiliar socks mixed with his old uniforms, as if someone had casually moved in while his memory still lingered. The bathroom hit harder. 2 toothbrushes. 1 razor new. His old one had disappeared. Lorna didn't even pretend to preserve his space. But she kept the photo on the vanity mirror, Kellen in his dress blues, kissing her forehead. That one made him pause. Downstairs, he found the bills. Lorna had rerouted accounts. Utilities in her name. Credit cards in someone else's. She hadn't just moved on, she'd erased and rebuilt. Carefully. Too carefully. He logged into the bank account he hadn't checked in months. She had convinced him not to. I'll handle the finances while you're gone, baby. You just stay safe. The savings were drained. His military pay was being rerouted. A new joint account had been opened 2 weeks after he was listed missing, with a man named Brooks Harlan. His fists clenched on instinct. Not yet. He copied everything. Screenshots. Statements. Transferred it to a hidden drive. Then something odd caught his eye, an invoice from a jewelry store. It wasn't for him. For $1,800 on a custom ring. He grabbed his keys. The jeweler's address was across town. Small, local, discreet. The kind of place you only go if you don't want to be noticed. Kellen walked out of the house without a word, one thought pushing through the rage like a nail under the skin. Who the hell is Brooks Harlan? The jewelry store had a bell that jingled when Kellen stepped in. The air smelled like old polish and velvet. A balding man in a brown vest looked up from behind a counter. Morning. You looking for something custom? He asked. Kellen kept his tone calm. Just picking something up for my wife. Lorna Mace. Should have been a ring order. A few weeks back. The man squinted, typing into his system. Yeah. That was picked up already. Her boyfriend signed for it. Brooks. Right? Kellen said, hiding the flinch. Big guy. Nah, the man chuckled. Tall, clean cut. Talks like a politician. We're one of those lawyer watches. He flipped a screen toward Kellen. A grainy security photo, clear enough. Kellen leaned in. There he was. Brooks. Smiling like he owned the damn world. Thanks, Kellen muttered. He turned to leave, but paused. Did she say what it was for? The man shrugged. Engagement ring. Real dramatic style. Black diamond, silver band. Said it was for someone better than her past. That line burned. Kellen kept his face still. When he stepped outside, the sun was blinding. He stood on the sidewalk for a second, adjusting to it, adjusting to everything. The woman he bled for, defended, married, had given his medals to. She hadn't just moved on. She was rewriting history. He opened his phone, pulled up the contact. Reno, need a full workup on Brooks Harlan. Fast. Everything. He typed another message. I'm not reacting. I'm preparing. Then he walked across the street and sat at a bus stop, staring down the road, the weight of betrayal pressing on him. But the gears had already started turning. 3 days later, Lorna came back like nothing had happened. She parked her car in the driveway, grabbed a grocery bag from the trunk, and strolled in with her phone in hand, laughing at something on speaker. Kellen watched her from the kitchen like a man watching a documentary, disconnected but hyper-aware. She froze when she saw him. You're still here? She asked. I live here, he said flatly. An awkward pause. She cleared her throat. Look, I was shocked, okay? I didn't expect to see you standing in the house when I got back. I needed time. To figure out how to spin it, he asked. No, she snapped. To process. He said nothing, just watched. She softened. Listen, Father's Day's coming. I thought maybe we could do something. As a family. Kellen almost laughed. Whose family? She hesitated, then placed the grocery bag on the counter. For appearances, maybe. For the baby, you need people to believe you're still in this. At least until you sort things out. There it was. The mask. He nodded slowly. You want to throw me a party for Father's Day? Her eyes lit up a little. She thought she was winning. Exactly, she said. Just something small. Close friends. Neighbors. It'll help with everything. Closure, maybe. He tilted his head. You inviting Brooks? She blinked. No, of course not. She was lying. Fine, he said, calm as ice. Let's celebrate. He walked away before she could reply, his face blank, but his mind already working. She wanted to put on a show? He'd give her one. Only this time, the guest list would include Karma. The next morning was overcast, but Kellen was already on the move before sunrise. He parked 2 blocks away from the lab Reno had recommended, private, off books, no questions asked. He wore a hoodie pulled low and gloves. The baby's hair sample was sealed in a coated vial, untraceable. The lab tech didn't speak, just nodded, took the package, and disappeared into the back. Kellen waited in the small side room. No music, no chatter. Just the low hum of fluorescent lights and a ticking wall clock. 20 minutes later, the tech returned. We'll have results in 2 days, he said. Kellen stood. Don't contact me. Drop the report in this locker. He handed over a number. I'll retrieve it myself. The tech nodded. Understood. As Kellen walked back to his truck, a car sped past him, a matte black SUV, tinted windows. For a second, his instincts flared. That was a tail pattern. He turned sharply into a diner instead of heading for the truck, slipping into a booth by the window and watching. The SUV parked 2 spaces behind his vehicle. Kellen pulled out his phone, acting casual. Snapped a photo through the diner window. Reno, again, need plate ID. Black SUV. Possible surveillance. Reply. Already got eyes. You're being watched. They're getting nervous. Kellen looked back once more, then ordered coffee. He stirred it slowly, his mind not on caffeine, but on how deep this betrayal really went. They weren't just cheating. They were hiding something bigger. And now, someone knew he was looking. 2 days later, Kellen opened the locker at a rundown gym in the industrial district. Inside was a small envelope, unmarked. He didn't wait to get home. He tore it open in his truck and read the first line. Probability of paternity. 0%. His hands tightened around the paper. No flinch. No gasp. Just the tightening of muscle, jaw, and spine. A slow-building internal fire that didn't explode. It simmered. The baby wasn't his. Not even a margin of doubt. He stared at the report for a while, thinking back to the day Lorna first told him she was pregnant, through shaky laughter and tears. The way she clutched her stomach and said, "You've always wanted to be a father." Now it was clear. She'd weaponized that dream. He didn't drive straight home. He went to a hardware store, bought a motion sensor cam and a second phone, then to a military surplus shop for a burner headset. Everything cash. Clean. By evening, he was back in the house. Lorna wasn't home. He set up the camera in the nursery, pointed discreetly at the crib, with full audio range. The motion trigger would send alerts to the burner phone. He wasn't watching for the baby. He was watching for what they said around the baby. An hour later, the front door opened. Lorna and Brooks walked in, laughing. Kellen stood in the hallway, out of sight, listening as they kissed in the kitchen. She whispered, "We're almost there. Just a few more weeks and the pension clears." Brooks chuckled. He's clueless. Might even believe the kid is his. She laughed too, cold and sharp. Who cares? It's not even yours either. Kellen didn't move. Not a word. Not a twitch. Just a single quiet exhale as he walked upstairs. The next morning, Lorna acted like nothing had happened. She kissed Kellen on the cheek. "I'm gonna run errands today. You good with the baby?" He nodded, staring into his coffee. "Great," she said cheerfully, grabbing her purse. "Try to rest. You've been through so much." When the door clicked shut, he didn't waste a second. He opened the laptop and transferred the nursery audio to a secured drive, then backed it up twice. It was crystal clear. 2 voices. 1 betrayal. He uploaded a version to an encrypted cloud folder, labeling it Insurance A. Set it to release to 10 contacts if something happened to him. Because it was time to accept something dangerous, Lorna didn't just think he was gone. She may have hoped he stayed that way. Reno confirmed it hours later. Text: found Brooks' legal team. He filed a death benefits inquiry 4 months ago in your name. Kellen read it twice. Brooks was trying to declare him officially dead. To collect government money. His own government money. That was a federal crime. Kellen sat still for a long time, letting it sink in. That baby? Collateral. That party? A cover. Lorna wasn't just cold. She was calculated. And Brooks? He was willing to bury a man without a body if it meant money and status. They were deep into this. Too deep to back out. And he wasn't backing out either. He picked up his phone and recorded a single voice memo. They tried to bury me. Now they're going to watch me dig them up. The house was quiet that night, too quiet for a home with a child. Kellen sat alone on the porch, hood up, rain tapping on the brim like a ticking clock. Every piece of the puzzle was snapping into place. He'd been declared likely deceased through a form submitted behind his back. His benefits redirected. His identity weaponized. And now, Lorna and Brooks were coasting toward a finish line built on his supposed grave. But they didn't realize he was no longer chasing justice. He was building judgment. Inside, the baby cried. Kellen didn't move right away. When he finally stepped inside, he paused at the photo on the wall, him in uniform, holding Lorna close. He took it down, smashed the glass with his fist. Upstairs, the nursery was dim. The baby settled when he entered, his small fingers curling around Kellen's glove. You didn't ask to be born into this, Kellen murmured. But you're part of it now. The next morning, he set the final phase of observation in motion. A disguised voicemail went out to Lorna from a fake government number. We're calling regarding the pending confirmation of death benefits for Kellen Mace. Your application will require direct verification. He timed the call to land when she was in the kitchen. He watched her face. She froze, hand midair, holding a spoon. Then she ran upstairs. The panic had started, and that was the first crack in her control. Kellen stood outside the room, listening to her call Brooks in a whisper. We need to finish this now. He's asking questions. She wasn't talking about the government. She was talking about him. By the following week, Kellen had stopped sleeping more than 2 hours a night. Not because of nightmares. Because he didn't want to miss a single moment of their unraveling. He stayed alert, methodical. He planted a tracker under Brooks' car. Hacked into their shared calendar via Lorna's cloud account. Every appointment, every coffee meet, every charity event Brooks scheduled. He knew. He learned Brooks wasn't just a side guy. He was an ambitious legal consultant running a shady offshore account racket, laundering money through veterans' charities and real estate flips. Lorna was involved. She was the clean face. He was the teeth. And they were using his service record as cover for stolen Valor Grant money. One of the charities they represented was called Shelter Valor, its website full of stock photos of soldiers in wheelchairs and Donate Now buttons. Kellen ran a trace. Not a single cent went to soldiers. Every dollar rerouted to a dummy account. He forwarded the info to Reno with a single message. They're not just liars. They're parasites. Later that night, Kellen parked across from the community center where Lorna and Brooks were holding a Support the Heroes event. Lorna stood outside in a tight dress, shaking hands, laughing. The local mayor was there. A few business owners. Even a news van. Brooks gave a speech on sacrifice, service, and honoring the fallen. Kellen stared at him through binoculars from the truck, teeth clenched. They buried me to raise money, he whispered. And right then, he knew. The final strike had to be public. Loud. Sharp. Cinematic. And it was going to be on Father's Day. The next morning, Kellen made a quiet stop at a small bar tucked behind an old gas station, the kind of place where questions weren't asked if the tips were generous. He sat down across from Brooks' wife. Her name was Fallon. Sharp eyes. Calm voice. No trust left in her marriage, but all the rage in the world. You really want to bring him down? She asked. I want him witnessed, Kellen said. Not just exposed. Humiliated. Fallon smirked. He deserves it. You know he's been filing tax write-offs in your name? Kellen nodded. And he's been filing death paperwork, too. Her face changed. He what? Used my status to steal more than pension. He's been funneling funds through a fake charity using Lorna's PR contacts. Fallon leaned back, eyebrows raised. You really came back from the dead to burn him? No, Kellen said. I came back to watch him burn himself. They exchanged files, his USB of camera audio and charity links, her folder of emails and financial statements. Fallon was the missing piece. She had access to Brooks' internal firm, knew his passwords, knew which officials he'd paid off. She wasn't just hurt. She was ready to be part of the fallout. They agreed on a plan, split operations. She'd go legal. He'd go public. Together, they'd pin Brooks from both ends. The last thing Fallon said before leaving. He always said the military made people dangerous. Guess he forgot you were the military. As she walked away, Kellen pulled out his phone. He opened the file named Father's Day Final Cut and began editing the first draft of his revenge presentation. It was nearly ready. The party would be legendary. Wait, I need to tell you something important. Have you ever realized that you keep watching my videos but haven't subscribed yet? This video has reached this point, which means you're enjoying it. So why not subscribe? So now I have a big goal, 5,000 subscribers. And you can help me reach it. Think about it. If you don't subscribe now, you might miss my next big video. This is the moment. Hit that subscribe button now. Do it now. And don't forget to hit the bell icon so you never miss out. I know you'll do it. And when we hit 3,000 subscribers, I have a special surprise for you. Now, let's continue story. Kellen stood in the garage that used to be his, surrounded by his old tools, workout bench, and a dusty American flag draped across a forgotten storage bin. In the far corner, a lockbox Lorna never used. But it had a new code lock now. That was her first mistake. He cracked it in minutes. Inside were tax forms, insurance claims, and a military casualty certificate. Forged. Clean. Even had a fake witness signature. She'd forged that too. A dead squad member's name. He took photos of everything. Back in the house, Lorna was in the shower. He placed the lockbox back exactly as it was. Clean. Silent. Later that night, he watched her tuck the baby in. She cooed like a perfect mother. Soft lullabies, fake smiles. Then, on her way out, she paused at the mirror in the hallway, whispered to herself, almost free. She thought she was whispering. She didn't know the whole house was listening now. The camera caught every word. That night, Kellen added another clip to his file folder, Freedom Plans. And just before bed, he hacked her synced calendar and checked her schedule. Friday night. Private dinner with Brooks. Hotel Crescent, room 417. Kellen didn't blink. She was careful. Always had been. But even the careful ones get comfortable when they think they've won. Kellen sat alone in a parked car outside a yoga studio the next morning. Lorna's sister, Tasha, had just finished class. She walked out in designer leggings, sunglasses, and a Boss Babe hoodie. He followed her in silence. Tasha was Lorna's biggest cheerleader. She'd posted about Kellen's tragic death on Facebook, sold herself as the grieving sister-in-law, even started a donation page. He had the screenshots. But what Kellen hadn't known until now was that Tasha helped file the paperwork that declared him MIA and signed off as an emergency contact on several forged pension forms. He intercepted her at the parking lot. Hey, Tasha. She froze, dropped her keys. Kellen, you're alive, he said calmly. Yeah. Weird, right? I thought you died. Yeah, I get that a lot lately. She laughed nervously. I had no idea. I just signed what Lorna gave me. I didn't know what. He stepped closer, quiet but firm. You helped fake my death. I didn't mean. You posted a memorial. You took donations in my name. You called Brooks' family. She stopped. You were in on it. Kellen, please. I needed money. My rent was months behind. Lorna said it would just be for a while. She said you'd never come back. He took out his phone. I've got all your messages. All the transfers. She paled. He lowered his voice. If I ever hear your name come out of her mouth again, if you so much as like one of their photos, I'll make sure you get charged with wire fraud before your next brunch." She didn't respond. She just ran to her car. That night, Kellen met Fallon in a 24-hour diner on the edge of town. Quiet. No cameras. Just bad coffee and heavy information. Fallon slid a flash drive across the table. "This has everything," she said. "Pension theft. Offshore accounts. Brooks' shady donations. Even 2 bribes paid to someone in city records." Kellen plugged it into his laptop right there. Bank logs. Fund transfers. Ghost charities. He watched as years of data unfolded like a roadmap of greed. "They used you as the perfect cover," Fallon said. "Decorated soldier. Gone too soon. Heartbroken widow. They sold the hell out of it." "Who else is involved?" Kellen asked. She took a breath. "A local judge. 2 fund managers. Lorna's college friend. She's in PR and built the charity's branding. And maybe someone at Veterans Affairs, because these approvals don't happen this fast." Kellen stared at the screen. His name was all over donation campaigns and public service posts. Photoshopped images of him in combat. Quotes he never said. Even a fake video tribute. "They're not just liars," he said. "They're building careers off a corpse." Fallon nodded. "We take one down, they'll pivot. But if we take all of them, they'll collapse." "Exactly." Kellen leaned back in his booth. His jaw tight. His hands steady. "This isn't about cheating anymore," he said. "This is about corruption. Fraud. Stolen identity. National disgrace." Fallon raised an eyebrow. "And how do you plan to hit them all?" Kellen closed the laptop and stood. "With truth. Loud, ugly, undeniable truth." Then he walked out into the dark, knowing the next move wasn't about pain. It was about exposure. Kellen hadn't seen Wes Greer in over 5 years, not since their unit split after a failed recon mission in northern Syria. But some bonds didn't break. Not when forged in fire. Wes now worked cybersecurity for private defense contractors. Off the radar. No paper trail. They met in a bar with no windows on the edge of Fayetteville. No music, just quiet. Discreet. Wes leaned back in the booth. "So, you're not dead." "Not yet," Kellen said. "But they're already spending my ghost's money." Wes whistled low. "And you want digital confirmation?" "I want everything. Emails, metadata, hidden accounts. I want to track where they've been laundering funds, who approved what, and who else is connected." Wes cracked his knuckles. "You got names." Kellen handed him a list. Lorna, Brooks, the PR exec Fallon named, 2 charity board members, and a city clerk. "I'll run them," Wes said. "But this is big, man. If even half of this is real, you're talking about federal-level corruption." "I'm not looking to make noise," Kellen replied, voice calm. "Not yet. I'm looking to make evidence." Wes grinned. Always the quiet one in the room. Until the room burns. Kellen stood. "Let me know the moment something pings. I'll be ready." As he left the bar, his phone buzzed. Fallon. Incoming tip. Brooks met someone downtown. Black Mercedes. License plate traced to Judge Reno Ford. The same judge who approved Kellen's death certificate. One by one, they were all stepping into the light. And Kellen was documenting every step. The next move had to be surgical. Kellen created a fake pension update form, legit in appearance, but coded with invisible tracking markers. It looked like a routine update from Veterans Affairs. All it needed was Lorna's hands on it. He left the sealed envelope in her home office, casually slipped between the pages of a parenting magazine. It wouldn't take long. She always went through the mail. 2 days later, the tracker pinged. Lorna had scanned the form and emailed it to a private contact, someone using a masked domain linked to Brooks' firm. Wes called him that night. "Got it. And get this, they used a personal laptop connected to the same network Brooks accesses from his condo." "Where's the data going?" Kellen asked. "To a shared offshore archive, tied to multiple accounts. They're syncing all forged documents in one place." "Dumb move." Kellen leaned forward. "Can you copy it?" "I already did." "You now have their entire file system." Later that night, Kellen sat in his truck outside the same hotel they'd used last month. Crescent Inn. Room for 17 again. Same playlist playing from the window, muffled by the glass. He didn't go inside. He just watched. Brooks came out laughing. Lorna followed, fixing her hair. They didn't even check if anyone was watching. They thought he was too far gone to fight back. That's what made them sloppy. And soon, they'd realize the paper trail they'd built wasn't a road to riches. It was a noose. The nursery cam had done more than capture a few whispered conversations. It had become a confession box. Kellen sat in the living room, one earbud in, scrubbing through the motion-triggered footage. He listened to a moment from 2 nights ago. Lorna, pacing, whispering on the phone, "No, Brooks, we can't kill the file. I don't know if he's seen it yet. He's been quiet. Too quiet. Brooks, maybe he's broken. Maybe the war really did it to him. Lorna, or maybe he's watching. Like before. Remember the dog incident?" He caught that too. There was silence. Then Brooks said, slowly, "We should have done it for real. Back then, when the paperwork was being filed. Maybe we should have made it permanent. That was it. No jokes. No sarcasm. Just said." Kellen hit pause. They'd thought about it. Actually thought about ending him. He transferred the file to his archive and labeled it attempted intent. Verbal, this wasn't just infidelity anymore. Or financial fraud. It was a conspiracy wrapped in a murder fantasy. And now, he had proof they had talked about it. The final blow was near. And they didn't know the baby monitor in the nursery had become a surveillance feed wired to 3 hard drives, a remote cloud server, and one very angry soldier with nothing left to lose, except the lie they'd built their lives on. Kellen sat in the dark. Not broken. Not weak. Just waiting. A week later, Kellen walked into a quiet bar 2 towns over, tucked between a laundromat and a pawn shop. Neutral ground. Cheap drinks. The kind of place where a man like Brooks could run his mouth without worrying about who was listening. Fallon had already done the prep. She told Brooks they needed to meet. She'd found something that could ruin them both. She played the role of the panicked wife beautifully. Said she needed to talk privately, away from Lorna. Brooks showed up with swagger in his step and sweat under his collar. Kellen sat 2 booths down, hoodie up, head low. A listening device in place. Wes had tapped into the bar's security camera already. Fallon opened with tension. "You used me. You're still using me," she hissed. Brooks laughed, sipping his whiskey. "You got what you wanted. Alimony's gonna hit hard. Let's not pretend you didn't play the long game, too." Fallon leaned in. "And what about him?" "Kellen?" Brooks paused. "What about him? You really think he's just gonna lie down and disappear?" Brooks chuckled. "Even if he's suspicious, it's too late. The baby's not his, the pension's moved, the accounts are clean. By the time he figures it out, he'll be too numb to do anything." Fallon pushed. "And if he talks?" Brooks grinned. "Who's gonna believe a ghost?" Kellen's jaw clenched behind his drink. The arrogance was loud now, echoing through every word. And every word was being recorded. Brooks leaned back and laughed again. "Dead men don't get justice." Kellen, unseen, reached into his pocket and marked the audio file, confession, ego slip. 3 days later, Kellen sat across from someone he never expected to see face to face. Camden Reese, 23 years old, bartender, Army dropout, and, according to the secondary paternity test, the actual biological father of the baby. Kellen didn't show up angry. He showed up curious. Camden looked nervous. "You're him, aren't you?" Kellen nodded once. "Tell me the truth." "All of it." Camden swallowed hard. "I didn't know. I swear to God. I didn't even know she was pregnant. She said she was married. Said you were gone, like, deployed long term. We messed around a few times. She said it wasn't serious." Kellen stared at him. "She never told me about the baby," Camden continued. "Not once. I found out 2 weeks ago when she brought the kid into the bar. He dropped a pacifier. I picked it up, and she panicked. Took him and left. That's when I started asking." Kellen watched his hands, trembling slightly. He wasn't lying. "You want in?" Kellen asked suddenly. Camden blinked. "In? What do you mean?" "You want to be a father. You're gonna need to clean your life up. Fast. But more importantly, you're now a pawn in their game. And you didn't ask for it." Camden leaned forward. "Are you offering help or warning me?" "Both," Kellen said. He slid a folder across the table. These are the real paternity results. You're the dad. They don't know you know yet. Camden flipped it open, eyes wide. Kellen stood. I'm not coming for you, he said. But you better decide fast whose side you're on. Because they're not done lying yet. That night, Kellen met with Fallon and Wes in a parking garage, under the buzzing yellow lights and low concrete ceiling. The war room had gone mobile. Fallon updated them first. I planted a fake offer. Told Brooks I was thinking about reconciling. He bought it. He thinks he's finally back in control. Wes handed over a flash drive. Their server's vulnerable now. We're inside. Got access to their entire financial tree. It's deep. Offshore accounts, shell companies, and a few payment records that trace straight to a government clerk's account. Fallon raised an eyebrow. Bribes? Clean transfers labeled as consulting. But the clerk's real name shows up linked to 4 other pension fraud cases. Kellen nodded slowly. They built a system on my name, he said. Time to make them choke on it. Wes spoke up. How do you want to drop the hammer? Kellen's voice was ice. Father's Day. Fallon tilted her head. The party. Public. Filmed. Neighbors. Press if we time it right. They think it's for appearances. For closure. Wes smirked. And you'll give them that? I'll give them a funeral. But this time, it's theirs. Fallon leaned against the car door. What about the baby? I'm working with Camden. If he's serious, we get the kid out safely. No drama. No confusion. And Lorna? She asked. Kellen looked at her. His jaw flexed once before he spoke. She'll lose everything. And I won't have to lay a single finger on her. He turned, walked into the shadows, and left the silence heavy behind him. Kellen didn't need Brooks to collapse all at once. He just needed him to slip. And Brooks slipped hard. A week before Father's Day, Kellen had Wes plant a phony government document inside the shared server Brooks used to manage their shady nonprofit funds. The doc was labeled Benefit Claim Reversal, Military Discrepancy Alert. Designed to look real, but with subtle tracking codes woven into the file. Brooks took the bait. He opened the file, downloaded it. Then, in a panic, he forwarded it to a private paralegal contact with a note. Cover this up. Reword if needed. Stamp approval. That was his fatal move. Forgery. Distribution of government property. Obstruction of a benefits claim. Kellen had the screen capture. Wes ran it through a software trace. You've got him, man, Wes said. This isn't just shady now. It's full-blown federal. Kellen stood over the printer in his garage, watching the document print out slowly. He wasn't smiling, just focused. The evidence would go in the package he was preparing, one that would drop in multiple inboxes the day after the Father's Day party. VA fraud investigators, IRS agents, military legal offices. Each one would receive a personalized breakdown, each with Brooks' name attached. The only thing left now? Lorna's final trap. Friday afternoon, the neighborhood was busy prepping for the upcoming Father's Day cookout. Lorna was in the driveway, stringing paper decorations on the porch. Her face was bright, her energy fake. Kellen watched her from the garage like he was watching a performer on stage. That night, he scheduled a video to auto-post on a burner Reddit account. Just a blurry clip. Lorna's voice from the nursery cam, whispering to Brooks, "We can't kill the file. Maybe we should have made it permanent." The video went viral in 3 hours. Redditors tore it apart. Did anyone else catch that this woman was cashing in on her husband's death? The baby's not even his. What kind of snake is this? Kellen Mace? That's a real soldier. I remember his name from a tribute last year. The algorithm did the rest. By morning, TikTok edits were popping up. Commentary channels started speculating. Kellen didn't comment, didn't repost, didn't touch it. He just watched the match spark. By Saturday night, Lorna's phone buzzed nonstop. She snapped at the baby, cursed under her breath. Kellen walked in just as she tossed her phone across the kitchen. "Everything okay?" he asked calmly. "People are being stupid online," she muttered. "Fake videos. Trolls. Nothing to worry about." He nodded. "That's the thing about fake things. They usually fall apart." She blinked. He just smiled and walked away. By Sunday morning Father's Day, the house was too clean, too staged. Lorna was up at dawn, cooking, placing name cards, practicing lines in the mirror like a politician rehearsing for camera. Kellen watched it all from a quiet corner, sipping black coffee, playing the part of the reformed, confused, maybe a little traumatized husband. She walked up behind him around 10 a.m., touched his shoulder gently. "You okay?" He looked up slowly. "It's a weird day." "I get that," she said softly. "But today's for you. You're here. You're a father. We're rebuilding, right?" He just nodded. "Sure." She smiled, relieved. That's how deep her delusion ran. Outside, Fallon arrived early, pretending not to know him. She slipped him a flash drive, last-minute data from Brooks' office showing another payout, this time connected to a war widow's name Kellen recognized. They were building wealth on death. Brooks showed up late, dressed sharp, shaking hands, pouring wine like a damn senator. Guests filtered in. Local donors. Military friends. Neighbors. And under every smile, under every laugh, Kellen felt the pressure building. The tension behind the teeth. One of the neighbors joked, "You're lucky, man. Most guys come home and find their wives stressed. You came home to a party." Kellen forced a grin. "Yeah," he said. Quite the surprise. By 4 p.m., the cameras were live. Fallon had hacked the security system to sync with the private stream. And Kellen walked inside, picked up the hidden remote in his pocket. It was almost time to pull the trigger. The afternoon sun hit harder than usual. Humid, heavy. The kind of heat that makes people sweat even when they're standing still. Kellen stood under the tent, grilling burgers, playing the role. Neighbors laughed, plates piled up. Lorna floated through the crowd like a polished PR rep, thanking everyone, dropping fake smiles like confetti. Brooks hovered near her. Close, too close. Kellen caught it. The subtle shoulder touch. The shared glance. They still thought he didn't know. Fallon circled the crowd, phone in hand, pretending to text while uploading final files into the cloud drive that would go live with a single push. Inside, hidden on the baby monitor network, the projector was prepped. Kellen walked inside the house to grab more buns, but really to test the sync on the remote trigger. He held the device in his palm and pressed it halfway, just enough to show a silent thumbnail flash on the screen. Perfect. In the hallway mirror, he saw his reflection. Calm. Composed. Not the same man who'd come home broken. No, this version of Kellen was surgical. Outside, someone called his name. "Kellen, say a few words, man. You deserve it." Lorna beamed. "Yes. Please. One toast. For the father we thought we lost." That line stung. Not because it was sentimental. Because it was rehearsed. Kellen walked up to the mic, wiped his hands on a napkin, and looked over the smiling faces of people who'd been fed lies for over a year. He gave Lorna a long look, then smiled, quiet. "Sure," he said into the mic, "let's toast to fathers. And let's toast to truth." The moment was timed to the second. As Kellen stepped back from the mic, he reached into his back pocket and pressed the hidden button on the remote. The projector in the living room flickered to life. The baby monitor feed had been rerouted to play a different kind of highlight reel. Inside the house, the screen lit up. One of the guests inside gasped. A few others walked in to see what was going on. Audio began playing, crackling, clear, unmistakable. Lorna's voice. "We can't kill the file. Maybe we should have made it permanent. Brooks, who's gonna believe a ghost?" Then came the footage of the nursery. Conversations. Plans. Laughs. The file folders. The wine-fueled confession in Brooks' condo. Financial docs flipping like slides on screen. Stolen pension documents. Donation fraud. Text overlays naming every business, every connection. Outside, Lorna's face paled. People were already whispering. Phones came out. Someone streamed live. Brooks stepped forward. "What the hell is this?" Fallon, cool as ice, answered from the crowd. "It's your real resume." Lorna turned to Kellen. "What did you do?" He finally looked her dead in the eyes. "Exactly what you trained me for, complete tactical execution." Brooks pushed past the guests to get inside. Tried to turn off the screen. Too late. Wes, watching the stream from a parked van 2 blocks away, pushed out the final phase, a digital drop sent to multiple emails. VA investigators. IRS contacts. Journalists. Military watchdogs. Inside the house, someone said loudly, "That's a felony, right?" No one answered. They all knew. The room split open. Lorna tried to speak, but her voice cracked under the weight of the crowd's stares. Brooks grabbed his phone, panicked. "Fallon, you hacked this," Fallon snapped back. "No, I just let people hear who you really are." Kellen stood at the center, calm, the only person not moving. Guests backed away. Some walked out without saying a word. A few pulled their kids closer. The footage continued, graphs of money funneled into offshore accounts, names of officials tied to donations they never made. One chart showing Kellen's fake obituary next to a payout request filed 6 days after his last confirmed deployment. Lorna shook her head slowly, then screamed, "You planned this. You set me up." "No," Kellen replied. "You set the fire. I just made sure people could smell the smoke." Brooks lunged forward. "This is illegal. This is entrapment." Kellen didn't flinch. "You forged my death certificate." He stepped closer, voice quiet but deadly. "You stole my name, my future, my child, and you built your empire on a corpse you never even buried." Sirens wailed in the distance. Kellen kept his eyes locked on Brooks. "You should have made sure I stayed dead." Police cars pulled up. Fallon stepped outside and flagged them down. In her hand, a flash drive in a sealed envelope. When they cuffed Brooks, his eyes finally cracked. The arrogance drained. When they approached Lorna, she didn't even run. She just sat on the porch swing, staring into the air, like maybe the lie was still playing in her head. But the crowd had already seen the truth. And this time, there was no turning it off. The media didn't waste time. By Monday morning, news outlets were spinning with headlines. Decorated soldier exposes multi-million-dollar pension fraud, veteran returns from the dead, and destroys a corrupt network, military family betrayal, baby, benefits, and bribes. Kellen watched it all from the apartment Fallon helped him secure, temporary, unlisted, off-grid. Wes sat across from him, sipping burnt diner coffee, scrolling through reports. The DOJ's opening a case. Internal audits started this morning. 2 charity boards already froze operations. Kellen stayed quiet. "You good?" Wes asked. "I'm breathing," Kellen said. "That's enough right now." He clicked open an email from a VA liaison. The subject, full benefit reinstatement, expedited request approved. He closed it without smiling. It wasn't about the money anymore. It was about taking back what was his. Fallon texted mid-afternoon. Judge Ford trying to cut a deal, offering full cooperation. "Wants immunity." Kellen replied, "Let him talk. Let them all talk." Because talking meant they were afraid. And fear, and people like that, always led to mistakes. Kellen's next visit wasn't to a courtroom. It was to a rundown apartment complex just outside Raleigh. He knocked twice. A woman answered, mid-30s, worn down, eyes sharp. Ava Henderson, widow of Sergeant Leon Henderson, lost her home 2 years ago after her benefits were mysteriously revoked due to an alleged application error. She never knew Brooks had redirected her aid to fund one of his shell charities. Kellen handed her a file folder, documents, account trails, statements. Everything that was taken from you. Names, amounts, and the lawyer's already drafting a class action case. Ava stared down at the papers, stunned. "Why me?" she whispered. "Because they used you too," Kellen said. "And they thought nobody would care." She started to cry, but not weak tears, angry ones. Kellen added, "Fallon's setting up a legal fund. Pro bono team. You won't be alone in court." Ava nodded, holding the folder like a weapon. Before he left, she grabbed his arm. "You're not just taking them down," she said. "You're changing something." Kellen looked her in the eye. "Then it's finally worth it." The following night, Wes made the final upload. They called it the confession folder, a time-stamped, verified, encrypted archive containing every detail of the fraud. Financial records, paternity confirmations, forged military documents, email trails, audio, and video footage. It went public through anonymous military watchdog forums, civilian justice blogs, and veterans' rights pages. The internet didn't just react. It detonated. Fallon called it a tactical truth bomb. Multiple outlets covered it live. VA offices issued emergency statements. Congresspeople made calls. Local government froze all active charity payments pending investigation. And Lorna? A viral clip of her panicked porch face was being memed under the caption, "When your husband comes back from the dead and brings receipts." Brooks' face? He trended for all the wrong reasons. By sunrise, their empire had crumbled. And Kellen? He didn't say a word online. He just watched. And waited. Because there was still one last thing left. They asked him to speak on camera. At first, he said no. He wasn't looking for fame, or pity, or applause. But when Fallon introduced him to someone from a combat veteran documentary project, run by vets, for vets, he agreed. One condition: no edits. No sensationalism. Just truth. They met at a quiet warehouse studio. Black backdrop. Simple chair. One camera. The producer gave him a nod. Say what you want. Start how you want. Kellen looked into the lens. "I'm Staff Sergeant Kellen Mace," he said. "I served 12 years. Lost men overseas. Buried brothers. Came home thinking the war was done." He paused. It wasn't. He laid it all out. How the betrayal started. How the system got played. How no one noticed until it became convenient to care. Then he finished with this. "They tried to bury me. And for a while, maybe I was buried in pain and silence. But now, they're the ones exposed. And I'm not just alive. I'm wide awake." The interview aired quietly at first. Then it blew up. Because sometimes the most powerful revenge is telling the truth loud enough that no one can ignore it anymore. It was late when Fallon called. "Lorna's been moved to protective custody," she said, voice steady. "They're worried she might hurt herself." Kellen didn't respond. She gave a partial confession, Fallon continued. Claimed Brooks manipulated her. Claimed she never meant for it to go that far. The usual. Kellen stared at the window in silence. Rain tapped the glass, slow and steady. "She asked to see you." That caught him. "Why?" he said. "She says she needs closure. That it'll help her process everything." Kellen exhaled. Slow. "Closure," he repeated. "After everything she burned down." Fallon said nothing. The next day, Kellen agreed to meet. It wasn't out of sympathy. It was strategy. They met in a secured facility, glass wall between them. She looked thinner. Hair undone. Eyes red, but not from tears, lack of sleep, maybe. Or guilt. Or fear. He sat down. She picked up the phone on her side. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I didn't know who I was becoming." "You knew," Kellen said flatly. "You just didn't care." "I was scared. You were gone. The baby." "I didn't know. It's not mine," he cut in. "And you knew that before he was even born." Tears welled up, finally. "I thought I lost you. And when they said you might not come back, I panicked." "No," he said quietly. "You planned. There's a difference." She sobbed into her hand. "Do you hate me?" He stared through the glass, calm and cold. "No," he said. "I don't feel anything for you at all." And that was the truth. Kellen met Camden in a quiet park just after sunset. No cameras. No legal teams. Just two men. One who'd been robbed of fatherhood. The other who'd been forced into it. The baby sat in a stroller between them, dozing off after a bottle. Camden looked nervous. "You sure you want to do this?" Kellen nodded. "The paperwork's clean. Custody's being restructured. You're the biological father. You've got a clean start." Camden swallowed hard. "I mean, I'm not perfect, man. I messed up a lot. But I want to do right by him now. I want to be present." "Then show up," Kellen said. "Every day. No shortcuts." Camden glanced down at the sleeping child. "Does he know?" "He will," Kellen replied. "But for now, just hold him like he matters. That's where it starts." Camden nodded. His hand trembled as he reached down, carefully lifting the baby into his arms. Kellen watched, emotion pressing against the edges of his chest, but not pain this time. Something closer to peace. Camden looked up. "I don't know how to thank you." "Don't," Kellen said. "Just break the cycle. Be better than the lies that brought him here." As Camden walked away with the baby in his arms, Kellen sat back on the bench. Alone again. But this time, it didn't feel like loss. It felt like release. 2 weeks passed before the letter arrived. Handwritten. No return address. But he recognized the handwriting instantly. Lorna. He opened it without hesitation, but he read it slowly. Kellen, I know I don't deserve anything from you, not words, not even acknowledgement. But I'm writing this because the silence is louder than anything I've faced in my life. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm not sure I'd give it if I were you. I just want you to know I was weak. I let fear become greed. And then I let greed become who I was. I wake up every day replaying your face at that party. Not the rage. The stillness. You didn't kill me, Kellen. But you made sure I'd never lie to myself again. I don't expect a response. I don't even expect this to be read. But if you do read it, I hope you know that, in the end, I was just a reflection of everything you never became. And thank God for that. I'm sorry. Lorna. Kellen folded the letter once. Didn't cry. Didn't burn it. Just slid it into a drawer next to the rest of the evidence. Not as part of the case, just a chapter he didn't need to revisit. Because some things don't need closure. Some things just need to end. I hope you've all subscribed by now. Your support means the world. Don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments. Let me know that from where you are listening to my stories. I'm excited to hear your feedback and engage with you all. Keep the positivity coming. The courtroom was packed. Journalists lined the back, scribbling into notepads. Civilian advocates sat shoulder to shoulder with military personnel. 2 rows from the front, Ava Henderson clutched a folder of evidence in her lap. And at the center of it all, Kellen. He didn't wear his uniform. He wore a charcoal suit, crisp white shirt, no tie. Professional, but not polished. He wasn't here for decoration. He was here for truth. The clerk called the session to order. Brooks and Lorna sat at the defense table, flanked by lawyers, one sweating, the other stone-faced. The prosecutor rose. The United States is prepared to present evidence of federal benefit fraud, identity tampering, and coordinated embezzlement involving at least 6 known associates. Kellen watched Lorna avoid his gaze. Brooks stared forward like this was still a game he could charm his way through. Then came the footage, projected on a screen. The conversations. The baby monitor audio. The financial logs. The falsified death certificate. One of the jurors covered her mouth. Another whispered, Jesus. Brooks' lawyer tried to object. The judge overruled him twice. And by the time the audio clip played, maybe we should have made it permanent. The room was dead silent. And Kellen? Still calm. He wasn't here to watch them squirm. He was here to finish it. When Ava Henderson took the stand, the entire tone shifted. She wasn't a lawyer. She wasn't media trained. She was raw, real. She wore a simple blouse. No makeup, no dramatics. But her voice was strong. I lost my husband to war, she began. And then I lost my home to people who didn't even know his name. She looked straight at Brooks. You stole money meant to feed my son. You lived in condos while I lived in a shelter. Her voice cracked once. She didn't cry. She didn't need to. I came here today because I want the record to show justice isn't just for soldiers. It's for the people who survive after them. Fallon sat behind her, eyes locked in, unmoving. The jury took notes. And Kellen? He finally breathed, just a little deeper. Because this wasn't just about revenge anymore. This was about making sure no one like Ava ever got ignored again. 2 days later, the verdict came down. Brooks, guilty on all counts. Sentencing recommendation, 22 years, federal prison. No parole. Asset seizure approved. Disbarred. Lorna, guilty on charges of benefit fraud, conspiracy to commit wire fraud, and accessory to embezzlement. Sentence, 5 years minimum, 3 suspended, probation extended. Custody terminated. Parental rights stripped. When the judge read the final line, the court finds this a betrayal of the highest order. Using military service as a shield for corruption, Kellen felt nothing and everything at once. Fallon squeezed his hand under the table. Wes gave a quiet nod. Outside, reporters swarmed the steps. Kellen walked down them slowly, shoulders square. No words. Just presence. That was enough. For now. Weeks passed. Quietly. The noise faded. The post slowed. The headlines moved on. But Kellen didn't. He started a nonprofit with Fallon, Echo 6, a watchdog group for vet families affected by fraud, corruption, and legal manipulation. The first project? Investigating the same network that greenlit his death in the first place. Camden began parenting classes. He stayed consistent, stayed clean. Kellen stayed nearby, not hovering, just watching. Wes returned to his contract work, but left a full toolkit behind. In case you ever need to crash the system again, he'd said. Kellen moved into a quieter house on the edge of town. No framed medals, no photos, just clean space, sunlight, and silence that didn't hurt anymore. One evening, he stood outside with a mug in hand, staring at the sky as dusk settled. No ghosts, no lies, just peace. It took 6 weeks of legal motions, paperwork, and red tape to finalize the property dispute. But eventually, the house was his again. The same house where Lorna had erased him. The place where it all started. Kellen stood on the front porch with a key in hand. Not the old one, but a newly cut set. Symbolic. Clean. His thumb grazed the grooves before he slid it into the lock. The door creaked. The house smelled like a memory that didn't belong anymore. Soft perfume, old lies, baby powder, and betrayal. He moved through the room slowly. No rush. No camera crew. Just a man reclaiming space that had once been weaponized against him. He took down the fake art. Dumped every fake smile in a photo frame into a box labeled, "Evidence, done." In the bedroom closet, he found one last shoebox filled with Lorna's letters to Brooks. Dozens. Some postmarked while he was still deployed. He didn't read them. He burned them in the backyard. Watched them crumble to ash under the night sky. Then, for the first time since returning, Kellen slept in his own bed. And when he woke up the next morning, he didn't reach for a weapon or flinch at a sound. He just opened the window and let the light in. He'd kept his last legal task private. No announcements. No ceremony. Just a quiet visit to the records office with a single request. I want her name off everything that is mine. The clerk blinked. You mean a name removal from deed and veteran benefits records? I mean everything, Kellen said. Bank records, insurance, emergency contacts, service listings, survivor claims. Wipe her off it all. She paused. Some of that will require state-level requests. Then start there. It took weeks, but the process moved. Every document Lorna had once signed as his wife was now void. Every connection that had made her part of his life, unthreaded. Even the memorial page she had created while pretending to grieve? Reported. Removed. Discredited. Fallon sent him a screenshot of the deleted link. Captioned, "Ghost cleared." Kellen didn't respond. He just saved it under a new file, Closure, Finalized. That night, he drove to a quiet overlook just outside city limits. Sat in silence, engine off, letting the breeze roll through the window. It wasn't revenge anymore. It was reclamation. And piece by piece, he was taking it all back. Kellen parked outside a modest house with a white picket fence and a beat-up red tricycle in the front yard. Ava opened the door before he knocked. She smiled, tired but grateful. You didn't have to come all the way out here. I needed to. She stepped aside. Inside, her son was playing with action figures on the floor. One of them wore a tiny uniform. He thinks you're Captain America, she whispered. Kellen gave a faint smile. Close enough. She handed him a legal document, confirmation of the grant issued to her after the fraud exposure. Full benefits reinstated. New home title in her name. He glanced at the paper, then handed her a small envelope. What's this? School fund, he said. Not from me. From the people who tried to take it all. She blinked. Kellen, I don't need thanks, he cut in gently. I just want to know some good came out of it. She didn't cry this time. She hugged him. Not out of pity or admiration, but respect. When he stepped back onto the porch, he looked at the sky again. Not for signs. Not for ghosts. Just because he could. The world had moved on. The headlines faded. The public outrage shifted to newer scandals. Online feeds went quiet. But Echo 6, Kellen's nonprofit, continued. Fallon took over operations. Wes served as head of digital security. And Kellen? He remained in the background. Quiet. but not invisible. Every week, Echo 6 received new submissions. Soldiers cheated out of support. Widows denied aid. Children left behind by a broken system. Kellen reviewed each one personally, approved which cases moved forward, but he never signed his name. He didn't need recognition. He just needed to know the storm he'd walked through meant something more than pain. One night, he got a letter from a retired vet who wrote, "Your story saved mine. I didn't even know I was being stolen from until I saw your interview. You turned your pain into power, and now people like me have a fighting chance." Kellen folded the letter, placed it on a shelf with no labels. He stepped outside with a cup of black coffee and leaned against the porch rail. For the first time in a long time, he smiled. Kellen sat in the back row of the city's Veteran Advocacy Summit, watching quietly as Fallon took the stage. She stood behind a podium branded with Echo 6, speaking to a room filled with officers, survivors, lawyers, and politicians. This organization didn't start as a mission, she said into the mic. It started as one man's survival. Kellen didn't shift. He didn't build Echo 6 for praise. He built it because silence was no longer an option. And because people like him, like many of you, have carried pain in silence for too long. There was stillness in the room. And now, Fallon continued, now we speak. Now we fight. Now we win, together. Applause rose slowly, then grew louder. Kellen slipped out before the standing ovation finished. Not out of discomfort, just because it was never about being seen. Outside, a journalist caught him on the steps. "Staff Sergeant Mace, just one quote." Kellen looked at her. "Just one." He stepped closer. "Here it is," he said. "They thought I wouldn't survive the war. Then they tried to write me out of peace. But the thing about ghosts, they don't disappear. They haunt." He walked off before she could respond. No follow-ups. No soundbite cleanup. Just the final word. June came fast. Camden reached out 3 weeks early, unsure. "Would it be all right if I planned something?" he asked. Kellen paused, then said, "For him, not for you. Keep that in mind." On Father's Day morning, Kellen pulled up to a small park where Camden had set up a shaded picnic near the trees. Nothing fancy, just a blanket, juice boxes, a folded flag Kellen had once sent home from deployment. Camden stood there awkwardly with the baby in his arms. He handed Kellen a card. Crayon scribbles covered the front. "To the man who kept me safe without saying a word." Kellen stared at it for a long time. He knelt and held out his arms. The baby, not his, but once his responsibility, leaned forward and hugged him around the neck. Camden didn't interrupt. He just stood back and watched, quiet and respectful. Kellen stood up, straightened his shoulders, and passed the child gently back. "Keep him grounded," he said, "and teach him what truth costs." Camden nodded hard. Every day, Kellen looked out at the trees, letting the breeze roll over him. This wasn't a celebration. This was a rite of passage. A letting go. A thank you. A goodbye. There was one place Kellen hadn't gone. Not since coming back. Not until now. He pulled up to the small, quiet cemetery just after sunrise. No press. No crowd. No medals. Just rows of names and flags. He found the grave easily. Staff Sergeant Nolan Reese, the man whose name Lorna had forged on his false death form. A brother in arms. Killed 2 years ago on a mission that could have just as easily claimed Kellen. He knelt in the grass. Pulled out a coin. Set it on the headstone. "You saved me once," he murmured. "Not how you thought. But you did." He sat there for a while, just him and the wind. Eventually, he stood, saluted, and whispered, "Rest. I've got the watch now." As he walked back to his truck, he didn't carry the same weight. Because this time, it wasn't guilt. It was gratitude. Kellen stood in front of a group of high school seniors at a small community center. He wasn't there as a motivational speaker. He wasn't there for a headline. He was just there. One of the students asked, what was the hardest part of coming home? He didn't hesitate. Coming home and realizing it wasn't home anymore. The room went still. "But that's the thing no one tells you," he continued. "Sometimes survival means starting over. Not with revenge. With purpose." He talked about Echo 6. About corruption. About silence being a weapon. And he ended with this. Your voice? It's everything. Don't wait until someone tries to bury it. The teacher thanked him. Students clapped. A few even stood. Afterward, one kid lingered behind. Tall, buzz cut, wore his dad's dog tags. You think someone like me could make a difference? Kellen handed him his old field patch. Not think. No, the old house wasn't just a house anymore. Kellen renovated it top to bottom, not with flashy furniture or perfect paint. He left some walls raw, bricks exposed, a reminder of everything underneath. He turned the guest room into an office for Echo SIXS local outreach. Mounted a bulletin board above the desk with pinned letters, photos, folded flags. The nursery? He left it empty, not in sadness, but in peace. It was no longer a lie. It was just a room, a chapter. One evening, he opened the back door, let the breeze in, and stood there sipping black coffee as Wes walked in holding takeout. You finally painting that wall? Wes asked, eyeing the last untouched corner. Kellen shook his head. Not yet. Still deciding what it's supposed to be. Wes smirked. Whatever it becomes, it's yours this time. Kellen nodded. That meant everything. Lorna's final public statement came in the form of a court-mandated press release. No interviews. No staged apology tour. Just one paragraph. I acknowledge the harm I've caused through my actions and choices. I accept the consequences, and I will serve my time. It circulated briefly online, then disappeared like all headlines eventually do. But Kellen received a sealed envelope weeks later, no return address. Inside was a simple photo. Lorna in a plain beige jumpsuit, sitting across from a corrections counselor. She wasn't crying. She wasn't performing. She was just quiet. On the back, a single sentence was written in her handwriting. This is who I really am now, if it counts for anything. He stared at it for a moment, then tore it once, then again, dropped it into the fire pit behind the house, and let the ash scatter into the wind. It wasn't hate. It wasn't revenge. It was just finished. The sun was just rising when Kellen pulled up to his father's grave. It had been years. He walked slowly through the dew-soaked grass, boots heavy but sure. In his hands, two things, a folded flag and a single sheet of paper. The wind was light. Birds were just starting their morning calls. He stood at the headstone. No speeches. No ceremony. Just presence. Hey, Dad, he said quietly. I made it. He knelt and placed the flag down first. The same one that had once hung above their fireplace. The one Lorna had packed away like it was just decor. I got your house back, Kellen said. I fixed the name. Cleaned the mess. And I think I finally understand what you meant when you said, there are wars that don't show up in uniform. He unfolded the paper, an official letter of honor from the VA, posthumous recognition for Nolan Reese, the soldier whose name had been forged. A final correction. A final right. I gave this to his family last week, Kellen said. They cried. Not because they lost him, but because someone finally remembered him. He stood up, hands in his pockets, staring at the stone like it might speak back. And then, just above a whisper, he asked, You think I did enough? Silence. Only wind. Only sky. But it felt like peace. As he turned to leave, he paused once more. I survived, Dad. And this time, I lived. The last and final chapter. The quiet goodbye. Later that week, Kellen sat alone at the edge of the community garden Echo 6 had just built. Veterans and their families worked the soil in silence, planting, watering, rebuilding. He watched a young girl place a small American flag into the corner of the plot. Her mom smiled and patted her head. Camden passed by, nodding. Baby in his arms. Wiser now. Steadier. Fallon walked over, handed Kellen a drink. You're really leaving town? She asked. Not for good, he said. Just for quiet. Just for me. He looked around once more. Everything here, it's in good hands now. She smiled. You'll come back. Maybe, he said. But I've done what I came to do. She reached out, squeezed his shoulder. You didn't just get revenge, Kellen. You left something behind. He nodded once. Hope. As he walked away from the garden, his steps slow, steady, free, a group of teenagers waved at him from a distance. He waved back. Just before getting into his truck, he paused, took one final look at the place that had once been his battlefield. No, it was growing again. He smiled to himself, and then, quietly, let the dead rest. I've got a life to live. And now I'll ask you, what would you have done in Kellen's place? Would you have stayed silent or built something out of the ashes? Tell me in the comments. Where are you watching from right now? Let's talk. Let's learn. Let's grow. And if this story hit you hard, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with someone who needs a story that matters. More powerful thrillers are coming soon. Till then, take care of your voice. Take care of your truth. And never forget, sometimes the most dangerous man in the room is the one who came back quietly. See you in the next story.